The die of fate had been cast. Reporting to a public agency, which we'd kept being warned could instead result in something far worse for Satoko if we didn't have the evidence first. And just like that. Had I failed? Had I let my emotions get the better of me in that moment? Yes. Maybe I should have stayed silent and left everything to Mion since she had been relatively calm. I remember the punishment game where we had to badmouth Curry, and how me saying anything would have made it worse, and Satoko told us to leave the talking to her, right? And all this happened in chapter 2. So again, this is what I was talking about a bit ago, where they've been referencing a lot of the stuff from like previous chapters, as in chapter 1 and chapter 2, in chapter 3, which is something. Maybe it was the same thing here. I was impulsive, so maybe I should have just shut up and looked at the floor. But it was too late to lament it. The die I had thrown wouldn't be coming back into my hands. All we could do was pray for something good to happen.
Keiichi-kunはKeiichi-kunにできる精一杯をしたよ。だから、あとは先生たちに任せよう。ね。
俺にできる精一杯？本当に俺が死に物狂いに精一杯だったら、里子を夕べのうちに連れ出して、どこかの廃屋にでも隠れてる。そうならなかったってことは、俺は精一杯じゃなかったってことだろ。
もう考えるのはよそ。
It was a figure of speech, Keiji.
ケイチ君、少し根を詰めすぎだよ。そんな調子じゃ、ケイチ君まで倒れちゃう。
Just leave me alone. I left her with those words and stared lazily up at the ceiling. I wondered if I'd really... Sorry. I wondered if I'd really got Chia-sensei to understand. Would the public agency intervene and solve everything within the day? Would they acknowledge the abuse and guarantee her safety? After lunch break, our afternoon classes were mostly self-study. The teacher came back to the classroom occasionally, but then the phone in the lounge would ring and she'd have a long conversation with the caller. Everyone in class got the feeling they knew what those phone calls were about. Sensei came trotting back from the classroom.
今日は何度も電話で、本当では今日はこれでおしまいにします。委員長、号令。起立。
It looked to me like Sensei had been wearing a dark expression ever since after lunch break. It wasn't a very relieving expression. It wouldn't be. Even if Sensei 100% understood the situation and passionately explained it to the other person, at the end, the Child Consultation Center, as a public agency, would be the ones to decide whether to get her to safety. Sensei understood that as well as us, and that's why she looked so unreliable right now.
Kei-chan, 帰ろうよ。
Right, and that was the other thing, actually, before I forget. Last stream, someone did mention that apparently Ryu, the author, did work for, like, the Japanese, like, child protection services, essentially. And I assume that's what inspired this arc specifically. And then the friend of mine confirmed it after stream. Like, oh yeah, how'd you enjoy the writing? And it's really interesting getting a look into what it's like in Japan regarding stuff like this. Because in other countries, it's pretty different. But the end result is, of course, still the same. It's quite peculiar.
部活する気も起きないでしょ。
みーちゃん、部活は誰がかけても面白くないよ。
Anna was right. It was no fun for us if someone was missing. If the teacher's expressions had shown more promise, then maybe we could have gone home more comfortably. But I couldn't let myself feel relieved. I couldn't be naive and tell myself all I can do is pray, now that the dice has been cast. Just in case they didn't get her to safety and decided to wait and see again. I'd need to take further measures. We've asked the people who could do something officially already. Then, there was one more place that was worth asking for help. She might laugh it off. Or, I might be right and I could be endangering my own life. But, I'd try.
あ、ミオ、今日さ、お前の家に寄ってもいいか？お前、漫画かなり持ってるんだろ？少しまとめ狩りしたいんだけどな。
え？いいけど。
Sure, I guess. There was an ominous meaning behind my words, so Mion realized what I really meant right away. I wanted to talk about something alone. That's what I meant.
みーちゃん、ケイチくん、早く帰ろう。
Irena already had her shoes on and was waving to us from the schoolyard. Mion's house was gigantic in every way imaginable. The house itself was vaguely old-fashioned. That was a vaguely old-fashioned traditional Japanese house, but the yard, I guess, or their plot of land was enormous. It easily convinced me that they really were major landowners within Hinamizawa under their thumb. Or with Hinamizawa under their thumb. Mion brought me through the guest room and a servant brought us some tea.
へえ、
Servant? Since when?
さすが金持ちだな。お手伝いさんなんか雇ってるのかよ。
私とバッチャしか住んでないもの。私だけじゃやってけないよ。
The servant left, telling us it was 5 o'clock, then withdrew with soft footsteps.
週に2、3回ね。バッチャの世話とか掃除の手伝いで来てくれてる。3、4人がローテーションで入ってくれてるんで、大抵毎日誰かがいてくれるよ。夕方までだけどね。あ、宴会とかがあって人手が欲しい時には別途に呼んでるんだけどさ。
If you had the money to hire all these people, then just take Satoko in. That's what I was saying a bit ago. I glared at her as I thought that, and Mion seemed to catch on immediately.
ごめん。
And then the disappointed console sprite. Also, what's that thing on the bottom left? Let's see if I can. Should be able to. This looks a little. Looks weird. It almost looks like some sketch or some doodle that some dude made. Anyway. Back to... Oh.
いいよ。金の問題じゃないことは分かってるからな。
先に言っとくけど、うちはお金持ちかもしれないけど、
でも、
私に自由にできるお金は全くないんだからね。そこだけは誤解しないでほしい。
It kind of looked like I was bullying her. Mion had been apologizing to me a lot lately. Was Mion the sort of person who would do that this much? Maybe it's just that I've been looking so grim lately. Or maybe we're talking to Shion right now.
でさ、何？ケイちゃん、なんか話があったんじゃないの？
ミオンにかなり本気な話がある。突然な話でミオは面食らうかもしれないが聞いてほしい。
何？
あ、先に逃げ道を渡しておくな。仮に本当だったとしてミオはそれを認めてくれなくてもいい。しらばっくれててもいい。だけれど最後まで俺の話は聞いてほしい。鬼ヶ淵村御三家の今や筆頭家、その次期当主の園崎美音に話がある。
Huh? What? Kiichi, what the fuck are you saying, man? I have something to say to the next leader of what's still the most important of the three families of Onigafchi village, Mion Sorozaki. So again, he's not talking to her as his bestie, right? His bestie Mion. He's talking to the fucking bancho, like the head of the clan, the head of the Sonozaki clan, like right now. And she fucking hates it. Oh god. it's like we entered her room, she sits us down, and then the camera pans on Mion's face, and then we hear like the drums like dun dun, and then we have like, you know, head of the three families of Onigashima village, Sonozaki Mion, leader of the Sonozaki clan, and it's all written in fucking kanji. At first, Mion looked like she had no idea what I was saying, but at hearing the whole sentence and putting it together, she reacted.
どこで聞いたの？
それは関係ないことだ。
Speaking of, have we been told this? I don't remember if Keiichi was Keiichi told this last time when we spoke to what's his name? Takano, like in the shrine grounds. I don't remember. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, like you're probably seeing this back to back. For me, it's been like 5 days. Also, we have this song again. So I'll let it play for a little bit. Pretty good. I definitely couldn't tell her who told me. Yeah, Takano. Right, that's who it was. Okay, so yeah, so we learned about him, about this last time. Good. Oh, right. Takano-san, you told me not to, but please forgive me. This was why I asked you about it after.
ケイちゃんが鬼ヶ淵村の名を知ってることだけでも驚きだけど、私についていろいろとあることないことを知ってそうだね。
ああ、あること、ないことだ。俺が勘違いしてるだけなのかもしれない。でも、それでもいいから聞いてくれ。そして、もしも本当なんだったら。
ケイちゃんが何の話をしようとしてるかわからないけど、話す前に釘を刺すよ。とにかくケイちゃんは大きな勘違いをしてる。だからできるなら、私はケイちゃんの話も聞きたくない。聞いても何も叶えてあげられないからね。でも話すことでケイちゃんの肩が少しでも軽くなるなら聞くよ。本当に聞くだけ。何も起こらないよ。それでもいいね。
ああ。
Mion seemed to know what kind of thing I'd be talking about. She warned me that doing so would be fruitless. That much was obvious. If what I was going to say was true, then the Sonozaki family would be the masterminds behind the string of freak deaths that have been occurring every year in Hinamizawa.
お社様のたたりってあるよな。
Mion nodded a little.
正体不明。なぜ起こるのかも不明。個々には解決しながらも、全体で見れば不可解な連続開始、連続失踪事件。でも、一つだけ共通することがある。それは、必ず村の旧敵が標的に選ばれること。
みたいだね。
What a coincidence, Keiichi. Mion spoke as if it didn't relate to her. That was fine. She didn't have to admit it. For now, I just wanted her to stay quiet and listen to me.
あさってだろ、綿流し。
Okay, it's the day after tomorrow.
今年のたたりの犠牲者ってさ、もう決まってるのか？
Mion didn't answer. Her expression remained the same too. Like she said, she was just quietly listening.
あ、ごめんな。聞いてるだけって約束なのに、質問しちゃ変だよな。
Mion gave me a look she'd never given me before. A faraway look. A sympathetic one. Oh, God. This is like painful to sit through. Like just reading it. She didn't nod. She just smiled faintly and listened to me.
もしも今年のたたりが聡子のおじじゃなかったなら聡子のおじに変えてくれ。だって去年は聡子のおばだろ。順番から言えば決しておかしくはないだろう。
そうだね。そういう順序もあるね。
第一あいつ去年のたたりでおばが死んだ後聡子を放り出して丸1年町に逃げ出してたじゃないか。そんなやつもろにお社様のたたり確定じゃないかよ。今年のたたりに選んでも不足はないはずだぜ。
そうだね。今年のたたりであいつが死んでも多分みんな納得するね。
俺聞いたんだ。お社様のたたりってのはその
No matter how I looked at it, I wasn't sure whether I should continue. No matter how I tried, the words wouldn't come out.
ひなみ沢連続開始事件、通称お社様のたたりは園崎家が主導で御三家が起こしている村ぐるみの事件だでしょ。
別に俺はそれにミオンが関わってるとかそんなのただ、もしもそういうたたりを決めている連中に渡りがつくなら聡子のおじをたたりに選ぶように言ってほしいだけなんだ。頼む。
ケイちゃんの言ってる内容はさっきから本当にひどいこと。
It really has been.
ひなみ沢連続開始事件が園崎家主導の事件なんだとしたら、それじゃあ主犯格は私ってことだよね。私がたたりを決め指示をし、何人も殺めて消したことになる。ケイちゃんは私を人殺し呼ばわりするんだ。
Yeah, and this is like a pretty fucked up thing to just say to someone. Specifically because of what Mion just said. Like, imagine you go up to your friend and you're like, I want you to whack somebody for me. And they're like, why? Because I've heard you kill before. Or I've heard you've killed before. Or I've heard that you've given out orders to whack people. So, I need you to get rid of somebody. They gotta go on a long trip. And then they're like, you're calling me a murderer. Which is pretty fucked up. So it kind of just makes you feel bad for Mion. Because mind you, again, she is the head of the Sonozaki family. Now, the other thing that Keiji isn't thinking about, which Ryu, again, the author, is really good at doing is, if you're just reading passively and not thinking too hard about this, you're probably thinking, oh, okay, so then this clears up the theory, and then all the murders are being carried out by the Sonozaki family, right? Like that's kind of what like he probably wants you to think as a passive reader. But those who I guess are reading a little bit deeper into the story can see that this is like a red herring, right? And that this is obviously not necessarily what's happening. By that I mean, it could be that some of what is being told to us is true. By that I mean, you know, Mion being involved with the Sonozaki. Being involved with the Sonozaki family, because it's her family, that they themselves might be involved in the murders, but it might not be that all of them might not be because of, they might not all be related to them, or some of these murders might be, what's the word? It might be something else, not necessarily just the Sonozaki family doing this. It could be that maybe their line, they turn into werewolves or something, and they fucking murder these people. Who knows, right? We don't fucking know yet. We know they're involved, right? But as far as we know, like, it might not just be whacking. It might be other shit. We'll see. We'll see. But this is still kind of like a take it with a grain of salt thing. I'm assuming that the author is kind of telling us, like, hey, by the way, some of your suspicions about the Sonozaki family might be right. but don't just put all your like chickens in one or all your eggs in one basket, right? Stuff like that.
だから
I didn't say that directly.
言ってるじゃないか。ミオンが連続殺人の主犯だろうと無関係だろうと、たとえミオンが殺人犯だって俺の親友であることには何も関係ないじゃないか。それでも全然構わないんだぜ。警察に追われたら助けてやる。お前のアリバイを作ってやるし、逃走だって助けてやる。
I'd be an accessory to murder.
仲間で親友だからだ。そうだろ。
Now, the other thing that Keiichi isn't thinking about too much is, now that Oishi-san knows who we are, he's for sure sending people to check on us. I am 100% sure that we are being followed by the police, and they're not making themselves known, right? And Keiichi, being oblivious as fuck because he's very emotional, he's a fucking 15-year-old kid who doesn't pay too much attention to his surroundings, probably hasn't noticed that he's been followed by cops a few times, probably since the incident. Now, by this point, assuming what Oishi-san has said in the past is true, and this house is already bugged, right? They've got cameras, or sorry, they've got microphones everywhere. They probably saw all three of us leave school. They probably saw us stop at the intersection where, you know, Rena and Keiichi usually split from Mion, and they saw that Rena went her way and that we followed Mion. They probably saw that as very suspicious, and they were like, tail this guy. Fucking go after him. And they're tailing us, and then, like, you know, they're keeping their distance. And they're just fucking spying on us right now, and they're hearing us tell Mion, I will be an accessory to murder. Please kill this guy. Please fucking kill this guy. I will lie for you. I will do this. I will do that. Right? And all this is probably being recorded by some dude in a van like 300 meters away. Right? So, I mean, we'll see where this goes. Mion looked surprised for a while. She was dumbfounded.
いきなり共犯宣言ケイちゃん、かなり大胆だよ、それ。
Now you're an accomplice? You want to make yourself an accessory to murder?
いいから話の腰を折るな。佐藤のおじを今年のたたりに。
ケイちゃん、ストップ。そろそろご飯の準備をしたいから、今日はこれくらいにしたいんだけど。
ミオン。
I then realized that my cheeks were wet with tears. They slid down my chin and fell, drip, drop, to the tatami mat.
最初から言ってる通り、ケイちゃんは大きな勘違いをしてる。お社様のたたりはお社様のたたり。たとえ人間の起こした事件であったにせよ、それは園崎家とは、ましてや私とは何の関係もないよ。
ああ、それは分かっているさ。
だからケイちゃんの必死の訴えには胸を打たれるけど、それだけ。私が叶えてあげたくても叶えてあげられない。それもわかるね。
ああ。
でもケイちゃんの気持ちは痛いくらいに分かったよ。もしも本当に私がケイちゃんの言うように御三家を操って毎年の犠牲者を選べる立場にあったなら、
Which I'm not saying I am.
きっと私はケイちゃんの願いを叶えているよ。
ミオン。
でも現実は違う。私はただの園崎ミオン。
Sorry, I normally don't interrupt like the dialogue.
確かに園
So my
崎家は
apologies.
いろいろな意味で悪い噂を持ってひなみ沢を影から支配している一族だけれども、連続開始事件とは何の関係もない。ダム闘争では確かに少々過激な抵抗もしたけれど、それだけ。人殺しなんて大それたこと絶対にやらないよ。
Oh man. Like this, like just this little like exchange is so strong. Like it's a very powerful scene especially after the events of chapter 2. We would never do something so insane as to kill people. And she says this while making like a moderately disturbed face, you know? Like a disappointed like face. This is the chapter that came right after chapter 2, where in the final scenes we had Mion tase us, drag us to a chair, and then like just restrain us before separating each individual finger with like, you know, leather straps, and then nailing a nail into each hand or into each finger, or she was about to, but didn't. But she had done that to Satoko, to Rika, presumably her grandmother, and others. So it's quite something. Also, hey Witch, thanks for stopping by. We're currently in chapter 7. So this is after we've learned of Satoko's abuse at the hand of her uncle. And we're asking Mion to help us kill him. Yeah, their fingers were too small to be nailed down, but they weren't small enough to be killed in other ways, I assume.
そんな悲しいこと言うなよ。せめて今だけでも嘘でもいいからうなずいてくれればいいじゃないか。
ケイちゃん、
Kei-chan, the entire house is bugged. If I admit to any of this, I'm going to jail.
夢を見るのは勝手。私がここでうなずいてみせれば、ケイちゃんはサトコがあさっての夜に解放されると信じて肩の荷を下ろすことができるんだろうけどね。でも無情にもサトコの叔父はあさっての夜も超える。来週になっても再来週になっても居続ける。それを覚悟してね。私は綿流しの次の日になぜ殺さなかったなんてケイちゃんに詰め寄られたくない。
ミオ。
Mion stood up slowly and closed the sliding door to keep out the wind that had grown chilly.
ミオさんかな。ケイちゃんにそんな話を吹き込んだのは。あの人、ひなみ沢をいい感じに誤解してるからな。
Mio? Does she mean like Mion? Oh no, that was Takano's first name, I think. Oh no, Keiichi. Oh no. You gave your source away, you fucking idiot.
まあ、本人が一人で楽しんでる分にはいいんだけど。ケイちゃんを感化するのはいただけないな。やれやれ。これだからよそ者は。
Oh no.
高野さんは関係ないからな。
はいはい。でも安心して。仮にミオさんがケイちゃんに喋ったと分かったって別にどうにもならないんだから。
Nothing's gonna happen, huh?
別にミオさんが今年のタタリに選ばれるわけじゃない。
It's not like Takano's gonna die this year, huh?
そもそも今年もタタリがあるかどうかなんてわからないよ。あんなの不幸な偶然がただ積み重なっただけなんだからさ。
聞いてくれてありがとな。
Maybe it's just all a big coincidence, close parentheses.
もしもミオンが連続事件と何の関係もなかったなら本当に不愉快な話をした。謝っておくな。
そうだね。謝っておいてくれるかな。
You'll apologize for it. Again and again and again. So again, we keep having these themes like repeated over and over again. Like right now, Keiichi is already going through the motions of not being able to sleep well. He's acting delusional. I think he's eating. He's still eating, but he's acting delusional, and he's being very rash with his emotions. That's kind of where we're at right now with this. So again, it's interesting how they're handling this chapter compared to the other ones. The other ones had a structure, again, where it's just introduction to characters, introduction to the world. Eventually get told about the Watanagashi, learn about Oyashiro-sama's curse. Watanagashi happens, someone dies, we find out more about the murders, about who died, something else about the village that we didn't know about before, and then the big climax, right? Whatever the climax is. Here they're kind of doing it a little bit different, which is not bad. So far it's been very good. And again, I don't mean to interrupt too much to speculate or like, you know, think out loud, but anyway. Mion said she didn't have much time, but she still brought me to the gate. She said she had a meeting or something today about Sunday's Watanagashi Festival. Sundays? What do you mean Sunday? So there would be a lot of people from the town council and the festival committee going. Sunday? What do you mean Sunday? It happened on the Thursday before, didn't it, in chapter 1? And in chapter 2? Chapter 2 took place on started on Sunday. Ah, fuck, right. But then it depends. That's assuming that each day was consecutive or happened consecutively after the other, or after the previous day. Fuck. Shit. Now, like, my mental timeline of the whole fucking like game is skewed. I don't remember it being the first Sunday of the month. I remember it just being on Thursday. Oh well. Despite her being so busy, she still listened to what I had to say.
天に神様がいるならさ、きっとケイちゃんの強い思いは伝わるから。
あ、今日は変な話をして本当にごめんな。今日の話はなかったことにしてくれていい。
うん。忘れておくよ。
じゃあ明日な。
バイバイ。
I'd really only spent a short time with Mion. Talking to her made me think. It was clear that what Takano-san had told me, at least, wasn't a complete fabrication. If Mion was really unconnected to the incidents, then she probably wouldn't have listened to me so quietly. She heard me out until I was done without making any quips, and I wanted to think that was proof. I did kind of feel like I was grasping at straws. Of course, thinking back on it, it was a terrible thing to discuss. I mean, I went to my friend's house, called her a serial murderer, and then told her to kill Satoko's uncle. I was the only one talking that whole time. Mion quietly listened to everything I had to say like a pastor listening to a confession. She could have gotten angry partway through, told me off, and to go wash my face in miso soup and come back later. But she didn't. Was that proof that Mion's family, the Sonozuki, were the masterminds? Or was she just listening because she felt sorry for me going kind of crazy? I didn't know which it was, but it was the effort I could make at the moment. It was the one effort I could make at the moment. It was another form of insurance. Should worst come to worst, and the public agency decided to wait and see, or would the public agency decide to wait and see? It was a completely useless resistance, literally grasping at straws. Sensei said that if she reported it to the Child Consultation Center, they'd have to respond on the same day. Could they already be in the middle of responding to it now? If Satoko came to school tomorrow morning all energetic, then everything would be just a needless fear. Why couldn't tomorrow come faster? That night was unusually hot and humid, and I couldn't get to sleep. I said all that to Sensei. They couldn't possibly decide to wait and see again this year. Satoko, what was it like for her tonight? Had she tasted the end of her nightmare, enjoying a night of liberation? I actually put my hands together and prayed into my futon. To who? Huh? And now it's morning? No chapter transition? What's going on? We're breaking all the fucking, like, rules here tonight. All the conventions established in the first 2 chapters have been broken. This is, I believe, the first time we've had an afternoon to morning transition in the series so far.
おはよ
よかった。今日もお寝坊かと思ったよ。昨日はおばさまには先に行ったって言われるし、学校には来ていないし、途中で日射病で倒れちゃったのかなって心配してたんだから。
う。へいへい。昨日は心配かけて申し訳ございませんでした。
Hey, good morning.
And now Mion is speaking English more. Like, what happened? Like, what's going on? She was like, Keiichi, stop it. And now she's like, speaking English.
みーちゃん、おはよう。大丈夫？なんかすっごく眠そうだよ。
そういえば昨日は遅くまで町会の人が集まっての打ち合わせ会だったんだろ？
Yeah. In every other chapter, like this is chapter 7. Chapter 7 is day of the Watanagashi. Like that's what today is. Like that's what this chapter, or that's what I was expecting this chapter to be. Chapter 6 is big reveal of like, hey, something big happened. Did you know there's a murder at the Watanagashi every year in Hinamizawa village? Every year there are 2 types of disappearances that occur. One being a murder and the other a disappearance. But as for which actually happens and who actually gets chosen is unknown. We spoke to a resident in Hinamizawa village to find out more about this. Anyway, so like that's like what happens in chapter 6. We get told a lot about what's going on in Hinamizawa, what like Oyashiro-sama's curses and shit like that. And chapter 7 is the Watanagashi, and then something happens in the Watanagashi. And then right afterwards, bam, we get told Takano's fucking dead and Tomitake got like killed himself. We found Takano's body in a fucking like oil drum in some woods. And now, yeah, like we're crawling at a snail's pace. Like right now it's Saturday in game. So who knows what's going on.
打ち合わせ会なんて名ばかりの宴会だよ。毎年やってるお祭りだもん。今さら小難しい打ち合わせなんかないし。
今日の午後はやっぱりお祭りのお手伝いに行くのかな？
Yeah, so today's still the day where we set up.
うん。
So then it is Saturday in
バッ
this
チャの
case.
代わりにいろいろ挨拶しなきゃなんないし。それにね、祭りってのは準備からもう始まってるからね。
Our morning conversation was lighthearted as usual. It looked like Mion had thankfully forgotten about how I barged into her house yesterday with that crazy talk. The more I think back on it, I felt like I'd really said something terrible to her. I was really thoughtless, and it wouldn't have been weird if she yelled at me. Sorry, I'm still thinking about that. Like, imagine if for some reason, like, Did You Know Gaming, if I was like a huge streamer, Did You Know Gaming came to me and they're like, hey, do you want to do like a segment for Higurashi? We're doing a video. Do you want to narrate it? I'm like, sure, why not? and then I get spoiled on the franchise while reading it. While reading the script, I'm like, wait, what the fuck? I've only covered the first 4 chapters and you're asking me to cover like stuff from the Answers arc? I haven't even thought of this shit. It's so stupid. Anyway, it was highly possible that Takano-san had exaggerated her story. To think that our friend Mion, the young leader of the Sonozakis, one of the 3 families effectively controlling Hinamizawa, was pulling the strings behind the serial death incidents was a little unbelievable. But if there was even a 1% chance that it was true, then what I said yesterday to Mion might have been a success. Sorry, now I'm thinking of like of that, if that video were to be recorded and me doing a segment on Pion, the third Sonozaki sister, the missing triplet. That'd be so fucking dumb. In the late 2010s, a rumor started circulating around certain image boards and around certain forums that in the Sonozaki family, there was a third missing sister named Pion, which was essentially a yellow rendition of Sonozaki Mion. Oh, that's fucking lame. I'm glad I didn't. I was thinking of watching the 2020 anime around the time it was coming out, but then I thought, why would I watch this shit when I can just watch the original anime, which probably looks better. I don't even want to look it up, but I'll quickly check the art style real quick. Hopefully no spoilers. Oh yeah, no, it looks weird as fuck. I won't complain about it too much, but because here, this is like what Rena looks like. There's just like some image of Rena. I guess it's like promo art, right, of her. It looks weird. It looks very digital to me. What bugs me the most is this, and I've talked about this, well, I guess to my friends mainly, but stuff like this really bugs me in modern anime. When they do this sort of lighting for anime, where instead of just using a specific color for to depict the shine on something's head or on something's surface, I should say, they use a filter and they add a bunch of bloom to it, and it looks horrible. It looks disgusting. When literally, like, before we went digital, what they would do is they would just draw the light on the hair. Anyway, not to get too distracted. But yeah, no, the 2020 anime looks fucking terrible. And all I did was look at like 3 images. They changed Nini to Big Brother. Oh, that is fucking stupid. Anyway, yes, it was no more than 1 in 100. But that little bit of effort might have brought the chances of saving Satoko up even by a tiny bit. At least I'd made that effort. After yesterday ended, I was sure I'd done everything I possibly could. If there was something else I could do, it was probably just to clap my hands and pray that Satoko's uncle would be killed by the curse.
サトコ、今日は来ているといいな。
そうだね。先生がいろいろと手配してくれたんでしょ？うん。きっと大丈夫だよ。
ひなみ沢地区の民生委員が私のおばさんなんだけどさ、ゆうべ電話して聞いてみたよ。
へえ、みーちゃんのおばさんって民生委員さんなんだね。それで、さとこちゃんのことなんて言ってたの？
うん。先生があの後、直接県の児童相談所に電話してね。児童福祉士がゆうべのうちに訪問したらしいよ。私のおばさんにも今後定期的にアプローチするようにと連絡があったって。
Ah, wait and see then.
小難しい話はいいよ。
Satoko's so annoying. Hope she dies. Oh no.
それより、サトコはどうなったんだよ。保護されたのか？
We're getting a little, or I'm getting a little too distracted. I'm kind of killing the mood. Sorry about this.
おばさんはそこまでは知らされてなかったみたい。本来はこういうのって秘密だからね。おばさんが私に話してくれたのも十分に倫理違反なんだしさ。
Yeah, that too. Like, she's just... Yeah, it's a breach of ethics.
くそ、かえって不安になったぞ。
行こう、学校に。
Right. Discussing this more would just make us feel worse. It was far quicker to go to school and see if Satoko was safe or not. The three of us nodded and ran off. Was Satoko safe? What measures had the child consultation center taken? I didn't care what, as long as we could go back to our peaceful life with Satoko today. It didn't matter to me. At the shoe racks at the entrance, Rena took a peek in Satoko's shoe cubby.
さとこちゃんの靴あるよ、あるよ。
ケイちゃん、サトコは来てるよ。よかった。
That line delivery from Rena to Mion to Rena again?
来てるだけじゃわからないだろ。サトコの顔を見るまで何もわかるものか。
We trotted toward the classroom. The classroom was lively, as it usually was in the morning.
サトコ、どこだ？
みー、ここにちゃんといますですよ。朝っぱらから騒々しいですわね。少しはお静かになさいませ。さとこちゃん、大丈夫だった？
All of our friends crowded around Satoko excitedly.
保護士来たんでしょ？どういう話になったわけ？
呼んだのはどなたですの？まったくどんな騒ぎでしたのよ。
先生だよ。あれだけ欠席すりゃ心配もする。
Satoko said, I told you I'm fine under her breath. She was still trying to overcome all the suffering on her own.
私もおじさまもとんだ迷惑でしたのよ。急にあんなに人に押しかけられて、もう。みんなさとこちゃんのこと心配してたんだよ。迷惑だなんて言わないで。
ああ、もうとにかくそれでどうなったんだよ。
どうもこうもしませんわ。風邪が治ったから学校に来ただけのことですのよ。
Oh. Like, the music was playing, everything was fine. And then, the Higurashi come back.
これからはあんまりお休みして心配をかけないようにしないといけませんわね。
What was Satoko saying?
おじさんはどうなったの？ええ、多少誤解があったことを認めて二人でごめんなさいをしまして。
Rika grabbed the back of my collar and pulled me away.
なんだよ、リカちゃん。
Rika silently dragged me all the way into the hallway.
リカちゃん、あれはどういうことだよ。
さとこは何でもないと言って追い返してしまいました。
And I don't think we've heard this track before. It sounds different, so I'll crank it up a little bit. And I don't remember if we've seen this console background. I don't think we had. And once again, I'll let this play for a little bit. I
バカ野郎
or it.
なんで
No. Somewhere in my mind, I thought it might turn out like this. Satoko didn't ask for anyone's help. She didn't hide behind anyone. She was trying to write out this pain. She wanted to show Satoshi prove that if he came back to them, she wouldn't need to hide behind him anymore.
だけど監督に聞いた話じゃ保護士ってのは本人の意思に関係なく研究保護をすることができるんだろいくら聡子が虐待を否定したって虐待は事実
Chia sensei finally came. Her expression was far from cheerful.
前原君の言う通り児童福祉士は緊急性があると判断すれば職権で緊急保護をすることができます
I don't know if the audio. Sorry, I know I did lower it a little bit again, but it should be back to like the same levels. I'll crank it up a tiny bit more, but I think it's just like some of the line deliveries are a little lower, maybe because the character's like behind us, right, by a little bit, like by a meter maybe or something. I don't know.
当事者の意思に関係なく
じゃあどうして聡子の意思が変に尊重されて保護されないことに
それに沖宮の相談所もいろいろ検討した末にそういう判断を
なんだよそりゃ先生昨日あんた絶対に助けるから大丈夫って言わなかったかこれはどういうことだよおかしいじゃねえかよおい
Eiji, she never said that. You wanted her to say that. When you told her everything, and while she was on the phone, you were getting mad at her. And in your mind, you were yelling, why aren't you telling it? Why aren't you looking at me, giving me a thumbs up and saying, I got it. Everything's gonna be okay. And the reason why she didn't tell you that is because this might happen.
圭一、実は聡子の児童虐待の通報はこれが3回目なのです。
Oh, that would be cool. Like a spatial audio, like VN for this would be neat. Or I mean, if they did that in Higurashi, that'd be cool.
過
But
去にも2回あったのです。
古出さん
Sensei tried to stop her, but Rika went on speaking anyway.
過去に2度一昨年の冬に通報して様子見になったって話は聞いてるがその前にもあったのか
聡子の死んでしまったお父さんは聡子の本当のお父さんではないのです。
Huh?
リカちゃんそれが
I'm stunned at the sudden revelation. I had no idea what Rika wanted to tell me, but it seemed really important, so I couldn't get a word in either.
聡子のお母さんは再婚なのです。聡子と聡はお母さんの連れ子で、お父さんとは血はつながっていなかったのです。
Satoshi was a good kid, one who listened politely to what adults told him. He was immediately welcomed by their new father and was loved. But Satoko was different. She was rebellious, she told lies, she played pranks. Her stepfather didn't like her at all.
つまりどういうことだよ
聡子はおじ夫婦に預けられる以前の家族の時もあまり良好な家族関係ではなかったのです。
Of course, her stepfather didn't have any malicious intent at the start. At first, he must have worked hard to get his new daughter to accept him. But the young Satoko didn't make any effort at all towards that end. She was distant towards her stepfather and never opened her heart to him even a little. She just got on his nerves all the time with seemingly forced lies and pranks. Her father's discipline and punishment must have been loving at first, of course, but that too faded quickly.
私はその時はひなみ沢にいなかったからよく知らん昨日、電話で初めて知りました。
先生が聞いたのはどんな話ですか？
聡子ちゃんが両親特に義理のお父さんを陥れるのを目的に 嘘の話を作って
Oh.
自分で生活相談所に電話したって。
Oh.
自称と作り話。
聡子は嫌いなお父さんを追い払うため嘘の電話をしたのです。
Child welfare officers rushed there and heard the story. Her father genuinely apologized for a few times when he had gone too far and agreed to let the child welfare center give him coaching.
いろいろと関係機関が調べた結果ね、ギフとさとこちゃんの心のすれ違いに原因があることは分かったんだけど、それ以上にさとこちゃん自身に問題があることが分かったの。
さとこに問題って何です？
A problem with Satoko. What could she have? It's obviously something mental. But what? If they bust out like Satoko has BPD or some shit, I'm gonna be very shocked. Satoko's mother, there were a few times where she had lived with the de facto husbands, though those relationships didn't result in remarriage. From a young age, Satoko had been forced to call at least 2 or 3 people her father. At some point, Satoko's pranks escalated. She would spill food on purpose, turn over her plate, and even throw it. She would break the windows in the neighborhood and shoplift candy. She would put thumbtacks everywhere and set other traps to seriously hurt people. Not in the way she did now, just to get laughs. She was also fond of telling lies that would be found out right away, and people got mad at her every time. But she never ever changed her behavior.
さとこちゃんのことを問題児なんて思わないでね。
Okay, so maybe it's just that. It's just like, it's not BPD, it's like, oh, like she's just a brat. Like she has literal, like, you know, father issues. And she lies, she throws tantrums. Interesting.
これは幼いさとこちゃんが母親を知らない男に取られまいとして取った自衛的な行為なの。
In regards to Satoko's problematic behavior, child psychology experts from public institutions indicated her actions were to draw her mother's attention to herself. Right. Like that's all this is. They're all like cries for help and attention. They acknowledged that she had a form of harmful emotional trauma and declared that she needed counseling and therapy from professionals. They didn't know whether that therapy had healed the wounds of her heart.
さとこちゃんはわざと体に傷を作り、お父さんに虐待を受けているとね。自分
でも、結局さとこをいじめてたわけだろ、そのギフは。
いいえ、虐待の話は全部さとこちゃんの作り話だった。義理のお父さんはもちろん少し感情的な叱り方をしてしまったかもしれないけど、逸脱しているほどではなかったの。
Satoko had lied to chase away her stepfather. And they saw through her right away. Found out that Satoko had issues.
あ、ひょっとしてそのせいで一昨年の冬は様子見に。
はい。児童相談所にちゃんと昔の記録が残ってましたですから。聡子の嘘の可能性もあるから慎重にということになりましたのです。
なんだよそれ。つまりなんだよ。聡子は嘘をつくかもしれないから慎重に。だから様子を見ろってことになってんのかよ。
狼と羊飼いさんなのです。
Yeah. That fable about telling a lie once, making others unwilling to believe you later.
ふざけんなよ。 昔のことなんか全然無関係だろう。今現在起こっている事実だけが重要なんだろうが。聡子は叔父に虐待されている。どうしてその事実が昔の出来事で歪められなきゃならねえんだよ。
Neither Sensei nor Rika had anything to say about
と
that
にかく
or to that.
それを慎重に判断するために保護士さんが昨日訪れましたのです。
And Satoko dealt with them, put on the best, strongest smile she could manage, and denied the abuse. Of course, she was probably being threatened to keep quiet about it by her uncle. Satoko was trying to outlast everything without asking for help. Satoko wanted to wait for Satoshi to come back home, and she outright denied the truth of the abuse. What an idiot. What? You're not really enduring it. Do you really think pretending like this will actually bring Satoshi back? Just stop it already. Satoshi, he abandoned you. And the fact that he hasn't shown up to save you now is proof, isn't it? So, just stop it. Please stop being weird and pretending to endure it.
今した話は全部忘れるように。いいですね。他の子に喋ったら先生怒りますからね。
Chia sensei gave me a warning and then left to go back to the teacher's lounge.
圭一、聡子のことをかわいそうな子なんて思わないでくださいです。聡子はしっかり生きていますです。聡子は
そんなの分かってる。俺たちのかけがえのない仲間だ。
聡子はまだ頑張っています。
A slightly angry Rika, which we haven't seen, I don't think. You can barely tell here. God, hold on. Only for like a second. Oh, that looks horrible. Oh, that looks fucking terrible.
もう少し見守ってあげましょうです。相談所の人が今後も定期的に訪問すると言ってるのです。
Yeah, she's like slightly stern.
大変なことになったら
Or as stern
す
as
ぐ
like
に
a
助けてくれますよ。
like a 7-year-old girl can be.
大変なことになった後だろ。
Any more than that would have sounded like I was picking a fight, so I firmly swallowed my next words and went back to the classroom. Now, before we continue, we had a very heated discussion with Mion and Rika and Rena about this, about what the fuck we would do. And I believe it was Rika who mentioned, oh, she was abused in the past, and then what happened last time was they were just gonna wait and see. Right? Like, that's what we were told. And then Keiichi started getting hysterical. He started yelling. And then he started, like, behaving like a fucking cunt. Right? He was like, fuck you, Shion. Why don't you just fucking take her in? You've got plenty of space, you fucking, like, greedy cunt. You should just do that. And then Rena was like, well, why don't you fucking do that? You've got a huge fucking home as well. You do it, right? Instead of letting it to even get to that point, Rika could have intervened. She could have butted in at any fucking point and told us exactly what she told us right now. The exact same thing that she just told us, she could have mentioned. She could have been like, even if Shion were to take her in, this has happened before in the past as well. It has happened twice more in the past. And the first time it happened, she was doing it on purpose. Like, she was willingly trying to get rid of her stepfather. And I'm pretty sure if Keiichi would have been told that, he would have been a lot more rational about this shit. And he would have been like, fuck. I guess we will have to wait and see. So it makes me wonder why the fuck Rika did not bring this up yesterday. This isn't something that she just learned of. This is something that she would have been told of at least by Satoko. Maybe. At some point. So why the fuck did she not say this before? I get it from a storytelling point of view, that this is just drama. But it's very peculiar. Because either Rika just likes to be quiet about things, or she likes to stir the pot and likes to sow like drama. Oh my god. It was a silly conversation. A humorous, even fun one, like it was any other day. If Satoko really said she could still endure it, then maybe I should do as Rika said and watch over her. Maybe whatever help I offer will just go unwanted. And this either is the end of the chapter or it's the midway point. But considering that we've only been going through about like 40 minutes of the chapter, and most of this has been me speculating, I doubt it. Yeah, it's halfway mark. Okay.
さて、お昼でございますわね。みーん。5人揃ってのお昼は久しぶりだね。やっぱりこうじゃないとダメだよね。
まったく同感同感。ほらほらケイちゃんも机寄せて。
Satoko brought her own desk over as well, grinning broadly. Even knowing nothing had been resolved, this exchange was pleasant and made me remember how fun it used to be.
いつまでもリカにお弁当を作ってもらっては悪いですわね。いいのですよ。さとこのお弁当を作るのは僕の楽しみなのです。
Erika's such a good girl. Having such a good friend must be so reassuring.
僕に大きなハンバーグを入れて、さとこには焦げたのを入れて、さとこだけかわいそかわいそでニパー。
I take it back. Well, she is Rika after all.
ほらほら、見て見て。今日はほら、オムライスなんだよ。マッシュルームとか美味しそうだよね。だよね。はう。いつもながらお見事なお手前でございましたよ。いつお嫁に行ってもおかしくない腕前ですわね。お嫁お嫁お
like
嫁。
like instead of any other career choice, it's like you could be a wife whenever you want it.
お嫁を食べると。はう。
レナにお嫁は NG ワードだね。
I think that was the most powerful how we've gotten recently.
以後控えるように。
ほんのちょっぴり完成しましたよ。
ところでミオンの弁当はなんだよ。今日のはまた趣が違って期待大だな。
おじさんはまったりと夕べのおかず詰め合わせね。煮物がいい感じなんだよ。ほら大根の色はかなりいいでしょ。わあ
美味しそうなのです。
煮物は一晩寝かせてからが真骨頂だな。これはかなりいけそうだ。よってさとこの分はなし。俺が全部食って感想を聞かせるから黙って見てろ。
なんですって？私の分もおよこしなさいな。
I'll use my knees too.
密着距離まで入れば私の有利は動きませんわね。ケイチさんの分のお大根が実に美味しいですわ。
ちっくしょう。バトル開始時から密着でいきなりコンボとは。 無念。
Oh, use my need to, yeah. This little exchange. How long had it been? About 4 days, KG. It looked like they'd ended up going with the wait-and-see approach, but maybe her uncle had realized he'd gone a little too far and would dial it back now. If her treatment improved a little, would that be a good thing? Satoko was grinning wider than I'd ever seen as she chomped down on her mouthful of the daikon she'd plundered from me. Did it really taste that good? Satoko was grinning wider than I'd ever seen, huh? I thought the music, like, officially stopped for a moment. But, okay. Satoko was somewhat cute like that, and just like I'd done many times, I grabbed her head and started petting it.
Satoko-chan?
It was so sudden that for a moment I didn't know what had happened. The back of my hand was stinging. I went to pet Satoko's head, and then she hit my hand?
どうしたの、さとこ。
Satoko was scratching at her head, as though a pimple or something had appeared on it and become itchy. It was so sudden and so unprovoked that I didn't understand what had happened.
どうした、さとこ。
At some point, her body had been covered in a thin layer of sweat, and her breathing had turned ragged. When I pet her head, did she not like it? Is that what that meant?
お前、頭撫でられるの嫌いだったっけ？
Once again, slowly, I held out the palm of my hand and brought it close to Satoko's head. The instant the palm of my hand touched her head, there was a shock like static electricity, and Satoko began to howl. She grabbed my arm in both hands, and as if flinging off a snake, trying to cling to her, as if trying to throw away something dirty, she threw it violently. It happened too suddenly for me to react. I hit the desk behind me, and both it and I fell to the floor. The classroom fell deathly silent. As Satoko bellowed, it sounded like she was in the throes of death, and she unsteadily backed away. Then, she threw up the food she'd just eaten. She vomited it all back up. Splish splat. The sound of Satoko's vomiting hit the floor rang through the classroom.
大丈夫かよ、さとこ。具合でも。
I reached out a hand and she swatted it away with all her might. With such extreme strength that I fell onto the floor again. Satoko put up both hands to her head as though protecting it, groaned some more, and took a few steps back. And then she began swinging both hands around. Students in nearby seats were forced to evacuate. She grabbed anything and everything within reach. Bento boxes, chairs, threw them, tossed them, and flung them around.
ちょっとやめなよ、さとこ。あんたどうしちゃったの？
She screamed out as if Mion's words had caused her physical pain. No one spoke a word to her. All the students were withdrawing behind us, leaving Satoko alone in the corner of the classroom. Around her, there were desks and chairs all over the floor, bento lay scattered. It was terrible. All I could hear was Satoko's ragged breaths and the voices of the cicadas. The strings of tension loosened around Satoko, and maybe she suddenly grew scared of her own actions, because she started trembling and gave a word of apology. But nobody knew just who that apology was directed towards. So, for now, I decided to answer as everyone's representative.
いや、そっちこそ大丈夫か？
ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。
Our words didn't match each other at all. Satoko hugged her shoulders, and back she went. She ran into the locker with the cleaning supplies in it. Even that made her give a little yelp. The impact caused a bucket atop the locker to fall, making a loud sound, and that scared Satoko most of all. She almost jumped out of her skin, grabbing a bunch of the curtain in her hands. Nobody spoke to her. They could only look, not even remembering to blink. Satoko, what on earth? I stood up, took a step away from everyone, and approached Satoko.
何があったんだ？
私知らないです。私知らないです。違うから、もう嫌です。やめてください。許して、許して。
落ち着けよ。サトコ、俺がわかるか？
もう嫌だ。嫌です。
Every time I took a step forward, she grasped the curtains more tightly and cried out.
サトコ、俺だよ。ケイチだ。わかんないのか？お前に危害なんか加えない。だから落ち着けって。大丈夫だ。俺はお前の味方だって。
助けて。怖いのやだ。気持ち悪いのやだ。
Suddenly, my shoulders were grabbed and I was dragged backward. Rena.
ごめん、ケイチ君はちょっと後ろに行ってて。
After pulling me back, she ran towards Satoko in my place.
大丈夫だよ、さとこちゃん。もう怖いことなんかないよ。ほら、安心して。やだ。もうやだ。ニーニー。助けて。ニーニー、助けてよ。
She gripped the curtains and kept calling for Nini. She continued to wail about being forgiven for something, and to be saved from something. What is this? Mion gnashed her teeth and groaned, and there were tears falling from her firmly closed eyes.
どうなってんだよ、これ。昨日で全部終わったんじゃないのか？今日からまた元の生活に戻っていくんじゃないのか？ミオ！
There was a crazy sound. Rena had taken the cleaning supply locker and kicked it down to the ground. Everyone stood surprised at Rena's unexpected act of brutality. After that, Rena embraced the bawling Satoko from behind and started crying with her, stifled.
レナ、どうした？
ごめん。ケイチ君、ちょっと黙ってて。
今のはなんだよ。どうしたんだよ。サトコから何か聞いたのか。何を聞いたんだよ。
サイナー。黙ってろって言ってんでしょ。
Rena's raw, hostile emotion hit me like a brick. It was no more than a momentary howl of emotion for Rena, but it was more than that for me. She had shown me what was behind all that emotion, what was in her heart.
Satoko ちゃん。やだやだやだやだ。もうやだやだやだ。許して。何もできなかった私たちを許して。ごめんね。ごめんね。
Forgive us for being unable to do anything. Rena's words made me feel as though the blood vessels in the back of my head were suddenly all turning to ash. My vision grew distant, blurred with gray, and the world lost its color. I thought we could save Satoko. But though I knew it'd be the sooner the better, I thought there was no time limit for doing that. I'd never even dreamed that we could be too late. I'd been making a huge mistake. I thought Satoko could be hurt, but never that she'd break. It was such a huge mistake. People, they break. Thinking that they don't is absolutely absurd. We needed to save Satoko. We needed to save her before she broke. That fatal lapse in awareness had brought this on. Whose fault was it? That went without saying. Mine, no, ours. We all took on the duty of saving Satoko, but we were negligent to the point of laziness. In that sense, this was the inevitable result. Even if this didn't happen today, and it happened tomorrow, or the day after, or next week, we would have just sat around doing nothing until that day. So this was the obvious result. I slumped down to my knees, just as Mio and Enrica had done, and I too closed my eyes tight and couldn't stop myself from sobbing.
何の騒ぎですか？ちょっと何があったんです？
The teacher came, and her face screwed up at the terrible spectacle before her. The instant she realized the teacher was here, Satoko went through another complete change. She wiped her face with the curtains and, like nothing happened, smiled.
北条さん、これは一体何事ですか？
ちょっとレナさんと喧嘩になってしまっただけですのよ。お弁当をめぐってちょっぴり大暴れなんですの。ね。
Rena didn't nod in reply. But then, since Satoko wished it, she nodded without strength. The rest of the class couldn't keep up with her extreme changes. We all just stared, in a daze.
ちょっと悪ふざけをしただけなんですのよ。皆さん、度肝を抜かれすぎでございますわね。
Satoko would probably sweep the whole thing under the rug. For what? Her heart is torn to pieces. So what else? You wanted your Nini to help you, didn't you? But unfortunately for you, Satoshi doesn't ever intend on coming back. It's never that easy. He won't just conveniently show up and save you. So you don't have to wait for him anymore. You can cry, beg for help, and you can run away. Ugh.
私たちが無力だから。
Mion suddenly said. She spoke then, those few words that had tormented me countless times. Those words were a spell, and when I heard them, my whole body suddenly regained its calm. My emotions all slipped away like they'd never been there, like a wave departing. And then, the world's color flipped inside out. And now we have another song. So I'll let this play for a little bit too. My field of view expanded. My head grew remarkably cold, and I felt like my mind's volume had grown even wider than the classroom we were in. At the time, my soul was doubtlessly no longer in the small, petty vessel of my head, but floating in the air a little bit above it. It was a mysterious feeling of release. He's having an out-of-body experience right now. I broke free of the cramped confines of my skull and stretched out my roots in all directions as far as I wanted to. It was a strange feeling and one I'd never felt before. An odd sense of exhilaration. My sharpened senses caused me to transcend. My mind was sharper than the knife's edge, and I immediately decided that spending the time to let myself be crushed with grief would be an absolute waste. Is he forcing himself to become desensitized to this entire situation? I erased all the garbage information from my brain. I expelled the pointless emotions presenting obstacles to action.
ミオ、お前は呪ってろ。自分の無力さをいつまでも。
え？
If I could have taken back what had happened by crying about it, I'd have cried all day. But the fact was, this was how things had turned out. I couldn't take back what happened. The top priority then would be to prevent the situation from worsening further and to sever the chains of misfortune. Until today, I'd been looking at things so narrow-mindedly, I could scarcely believe it. To save Satoko, the only thing to do was to save Satoko. That's the only thing I thought about. I didn't allow myself to realize the most basic, direct, and certain way of removing the source of Satoko's unhappiness. No, actually, I realized it yesterday. But as for the means, I'd relied on some stupid curse from some dumb deity. I never considered carrying the task out myself. I would obliterate Satoko's uncle. There were plenty of ways to do it. This was a task that held infinite methods. Ironically, The method of saving Satoko required mostly money. But the method of killing that man pretty much took no money at all. I could kill him with the least amount of investment. The least amount of money suited him. It was only the weight of his life. I kept eliminating needless, worthless information from my head, replenishing it with only the knowledge I'd need to achieve my goal. I'd used every cell in my brain to think about how I'd kill him. The way I killed him didn't matter. I would allow any method from whatever time and whatever country, as long as it ended in a quick and certain death. If I were to have an additional condition, it would be to not get caught. Removing him was an act designed to return the peaceful times that we had with Satoko. If I was arrested in exchange for the removal, then we might as well have killed each other. With only him gone, we'd go back to our normal lives. That was my supreme objective, my ultimate goal. Kill him? Definitely. But definitely don't leave evidence either. Two alternatives at odds with one another. The condition of not leaving a trace back to me automatically narrowed the number of murder methods. No witnesses was an absolute must. Fortunately, given the right time in Hinamizawa, there would be nobody around. I mentally reconstructed the land around Satoko's house. The number of pedestrians different at different times. Also, I'm not reading chat right now. The movement algorithm of the neighbors. Would I lure him out or charge at him? What would my weapon be? When and where would I carry this out? Where it needed to be somewhere I wouldn't leave a trace. When it needed to be as soon as possible for Satoko's safety without wasting even a millisecond. This is absurd. Completely absurd. When I thought about it this way, it struck me how easy the act of killing was. If I could leave evidence, if I was just going to kill him, anyone could easily turn into a murderer. But our reason prevented that. It told us doing so would get us arrested for sure. In the end, being arrested by the police was the final thing preventing people from committing homicide. Absurd. If you went all the way out into the very middle of the ocean, you wouldn't leave any trace at all. Anyone would drop those they hated into the depths if they knew that. It was all too easy to simply remove him. If I could leave class right now, grab a metal baseball bat or something from the schoolyard, go to his house and attack him. Estimated time would be 25 minutes. If I wanted us to kill each other, it wouldn't even be minutes. I could do it in the 1500 seconds. I knew just how much his continued existence depended on me. He was nothing. I could expel him from this world within just 1500 seconds after making up my mind. From when I decided what to do, he only had 1500 seconds. Actually, if I ran full speed to his house, that number would go down even further. But he was alive. He was still part of this world this very moment, having torn Satoko's body and mind to shreds. Why? Because I was letting him live. I was permitting him to live, so he was alive. If I rescinded that permission, he would be evacuating this mortal coil within 1500 seconds. You think I'd let you live to breathe even 1500 more seconds of air? I'm taking that permission back, right here, right now. You'd better thank me for letting you live until today. However, I actually needed more than 1500 seconds. I'm not just gonna end you. Getting back our old lives is far more important. It's only you I'll be cleanly cutting out of this world. They won't find a culprit. I'll forget that I dirtied my hands on the likes of you as naturally as I brush my teeth before bed. So to do that, I'll make a special exception and give you more than 1500 seconds. I'll give you special permission to keep on living as you have until I can construct the perfect plan for your murder. Wait, Keiji. You can't let that time go to waste. Yeah, I know. I'll kill him quickly. I'll remove him with certainty. I won't even waste much time to perfect that plan. Think back. Tomorrow's the Watanagashi, isn't it? Last year, on the night of the Watanagashi, her aunt died. Her head was busted open by some deviant and her brain splattered everywhere. That's it. He's someone who deserves to be given death on the night of the Watanagashi. Hey, Oyashiro-sama. You call yourself a guardian, but you didn't protect Satoko. Cursing Satoko's family for the damn stuff is your own business. But now you've made Satoko unhappy when she didn't have anything to do with it. I, Maebara Keiichi, hereby denounce you, the guardian deity of Hinamizawa, a failure. We don't need you. Go back to the deepest, darkest part of your shrine this year. Besides, if you had just cursed and killed both her aunt and her uncle last year, none of this would have ever happened. The curse this year, it's not on you. I'll be the one deciding. I won't be the three families controlling the serial deaths behind the scenes. Or it won't be the three families controlling the serial deaths behind the scenes. No, not some vague people I can't tell if they're buffoons or not. This time, I'll be the one to deliver divine judgment. So don't get in my way. Just watch. Stay quiet and watch. I'll obliterate him. I'll wipe him off the face of the earth. I will stomp out his very existence. Go away, disappear, and die. I'll tear your heart apart just like you did to Satoko. I'll have your blood as payment.
Keiichi-kun, 大丈夫?
Rena, Mion, and Rika were looking after me. Had I fallen to the floor?
急に倒れたからびっくりしたよ。うなされてなかった？うなってたよ。
うるさい。黄色い声で話しかけるな。
My friends gave a start and backed away.
なんだよ。
Ren and the others, they exchanged glances unsure of what to say, and stood confused for a few moments.
今の、圭一くんの声。
当たり前だろ。
Rena gulped firmly and opened her mouth.
今一瞬、圭一くん、すごい目だった。
Alright, I can actually catch up with chat for a bit. Give me a sec. Oh god. Yeah, it was a 1500 seconds moment. That's how long it took me to get through that scene, by the way. It took me 1500 seconds.
目？光の角度でそう見えたんだろ。
Don't you know, Rena? Some people's eyes look a different color under certain lighting.
バカバカしい。
見間違いじゃないよ。あんな目、初めて見た。
Oh. What were these guys talking about? They've all been too scared of me lately.
前原圭一くんだよね。
What was Rena saying? Who else do I look like, except Maebara Keiichi? The look I gave her seemed to speak quite eloquently to those irritated thoughts. She understood and quickly apologized.
ごめん、気にしないでね。
This is not the end of the chapter. No fucking way. Shag off. That is fucking terrible, mate. What a cock tease. Alright, let's save as usual. Let's read the tips. And then we'll keep going. Just kidding, no we won't. Emergency. So this is probably like the case from last night. In June 18th, 1983, abuse issues regarding Satoko Hojo. You know what? Let's look up when that date was, real quick. It was a Saturday. So, they were called Friday And then maybe this report was done Saturday, which is today, like today's chapter took place on a Saturday. And again, this is assuming that this is assuming that we're keeping that it's following like our actual calendars. So assuming so, then this was on a Saturday. Abuse issues regarding Satoko Hojo urgent. We propose that Satoko Hojo must be taken into immediate custody based on the items below. 1. Family situation. Life with adoptive father who recently returned to Hinamizawa has already turned disastrous, and she is currently subject to unendurable physical and mental abuse from her father. 2. Child Consultation Center's response. A child probation officer was dispatched yesterday on the 17th from the Prefecture Welfare Office, but because of the 77 case, changed to continued coaching and cautionary action. Unfortunately, the consultations office head does not properly understand the situation. 3. Status of concerned child. Child already appears to be suffering from an outbreak of something close to neurosis or manic depression. If her unstable pubescent mind is negatively stimulated by stress, it will put her development of a healthy body and mind at risk. This cannot be allowed to continue from a humane standpoint. 4. Allegations made to the family court. We propose, based on the above items, that Satoko Hojo should be immediately taken into protective custody. She should be secured temporarily under emergency allegations to the family court under Article 28. We request emergency coordination between all related agencies. Yeah. Yeah, of course, the manic depression is pretty bad. I mean, both of those are very, very bad. Neurosis as well. But of course, she could end up just ending it. D2-3, number 44. Children with special needs, general. D2-3, number 44. So-and-so, 1997. Child name, or 1977. Child name, Satoko Hojo, X years old. Residence, so-and-so, Hinamizawa Village, Shibone. 1. Consultation circumstances. Telephone SOS from the child of child abuse. 2. Abuse situation. Child claims she's being physically abused by her adoptive father. 3. Family structure. White dot marks abusers. Adoptive father, real mother, older brother, child in question. Note, adoptive father and real mother entered family registry in 19-something. The child is the daughter of the mother's previous husband. 4. Child Consultation Center's response. On the day of the child's telephone consultation, the center called the child's school and asked of her situation. On that day, the child welfare officer on duty visited the child's house and conducted an interview. The adoptive father sincerely listened to instruction and agreed to take child raising workshops in the city from now on. As part of the suggested coaching, the center will continue to observe the situation. Other notes. As a result of numerous counseling sessions at the city's education consultation office regarding the child, we learned there was a high possibility the cause of the child's excessive distrust towards her adoptive father was the result of a lack of communication. The abuse she claimed hadn't actually taken place. She had made a false report to distance herself from her adoptive father. Below is a note written in pencil by the person on duty at the time. The problem appeared to be more with the daughter. Chief Investigator F of the city's Education Consultation Office said that most of her stories of abuse were likely fabrications. They decided to shift the focus of her coaching to the child. Be cautious not to take everything the child says as truth. It's just a photo of like Satoko, and then under it's a Polaroid of Satoko, and below it says, "Do not believe her lies."